You can go after their weapons, after their arsenal. You can kill the terrorists, but you cannot kill an idea. Money is the oxygen for everything, including terrorism. And if you block the flow of the money, you can block the flow of the terrorism.
Welcome back to Axis of Truth. I'm Emily Schrader, and in recent weeks, Druze families from northern Israel filed a historic lawsuit against Hezbollah for the deadly missile strike on a youth soccer field in Majd al-Shams. Now, this case is being led by Nitzana Darshan-Leitner, the CEO of Shurat Adin, the Israel Law Center, one of the world's foremost legal teams taking terrorists and their state sponsors to court. Today, we speak directly with Nitzana to understand the significance of this case and what legal accountability really means in the broader battle against terror. Nitzana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Just to start, can you walk our audience through the legal strategy behind the Druze family's lawsuit against Hezbollah for that Majd al-Shams soccer field strike? What makes this case unique, and why now?
Well, it's actually started a couple of months ago when the families of the children that were massacred in the Druze attack in Majon Shams approached me and my colleagues and asked if they can file a lawsuit against those who are responsible for this missile attack, Hezbollah and their sponsors. And quite frankly, suing Hezbollah is not a simple route, especially if you don't know what you're going to be doing in the end of the road. But we were determined to take this case on for two reasons. First, the families need a closure. The families need justice. The families need to know who is responsible for this attack. They need a judgment from a court declaring who sent this missile, who is responsible for the death of their loved ones. And second, to find Hezbollah responsible and to get him to pay. That's not an easy path, I'm not saying, but we found that Hezbollah has assets, has money in United States and elsewhere, which we are going to collect the judgment against these assets. So we get justice for the victims and make justice with Hezbollah.
Now, for families who have lost loved ones or suffered grievous harm, like these Druze families in Majd al-Shams, what does pursuing justice through the courts accomplish? I mean, beyond financial compensation, how does legal accountability support healing and deterrence?
Look, money doesn't bring back life. Money does not heal the broken spirit and broken soul of the injured. But money gives a measure of closure and a measure of justice. And the fight on behalf of the victims, the fact that they are feeling that they are no longer victims, they actually got to fight back. I represent a father of a little girl that was killed in the beginning of the Second Intifada in Jerusalem. And he's a doctor. And he came to me and he said, Nitzana, if I had a gun, I would have gone and shot these bastards. But I don't want to violate the law. And I don't have a gun. And I want you to pursue them in court. So this is the way of the civil society. And the victims are the player in these cases because you need those who got hurt to file this lawsuit. This is the way of the public sector to fight back.
I want to zoom out a little bit. Shurat Hadin has made international headlines for suing terrorist groups and their sponsors. Why is this kind of civil litigation such a crucial front on the fight against terrorism? What does it accomplish that diplomacy and military action does not?
So you can dismantle the organization. You can go after their weapons, after their arsenal. You can kill the terrorists, but you cannot kill an idea. Hamas, even if you throw everybody from Gaza, and even if you destroy all their tunnels and you take all their weapons, Hamas remains an idea. And very soon, Hamas from Judea and Samaria and from abroad will crawl back to Gaza and revive. So the only way to dismantle its organization, the only way to choke off its oxygen is to choke off its money. Money is the oxygen for everything, including terrorism. And if you block the flow of the money, you can block the flow of the terrorism. Every terror tax needs funding. Any terror organization needs funds. They cannot function without the money. Don't mistake. Don't think that when you see a terrorist, it's not just him holding a rifle, a gun, a Kalashnikov, or him wearing an explosive vest. There is a whole army behind him. There is a full scale organization behind him. And this organization cannot function without money. Take ISIS for example. ISIS was the scariest, cruelest terror organization in the past decade. And United States tried to crush the organization. They bombed their bases and they bombed their military commanders, and they went after their activists. In the end, the only way United States was able to put this organization down is by going after the oil fields that they use, their source of income. They shut the fields down. ISIS ran out of money, and there is no ISIS as an organization anymore. This is the only way to destroy completely a terror organization.
Just in the last few weeks, we've seen the EU finally designate the IRGC as a terror group, and the UK discussing its intention to do the same. Can you explain a bit about what this designation legally enables? For example, can it help freeze and recover assets that the IRGC has laundered through European financial systems?
Right. So the urgency is a tricky one because despite the fact within the United States, you can sue the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and we've been suing them for decades now. Elsewhere, they had immunity. Elsewhere, they belong to the Iranian government and they cannot be sued, and any legal proceeding cannot be taken against them. So even though we won billions of dollars in judgments in the United States against the RJC, you cannot do anything against them in Europe. And despite the fact that Europe designated them finally, I don't know why they waited so long, but finally, as a terror organization, does not mean that they strip them from their uh, immunity. And therefore, even if you win in court against the RGC, you cannot collect it in Europe. And unfortunately, the RGC pulled its assets from the United States, no longer there. Actually, they have never been there. They did have contact with European countries. They do have bypass with European countries who deliberately, intentionally violated the American sanctions and had connections with the IGC. Not anymore, but the assets are not there as well.
Now, putting this issue into today's issue, the Islamic regime and the IRGC have committed systemic human rights abuses against their own citizens, as well as abroad, domestic and abroad. What legal avenues exist today to hold the IRGC accountable for crimes against humanity, and how might that change in a post regime future? Or is there a way?
That's an excellent question. And it's up to the legal system in Iran. In the end, as I explained, you cannot sue the IRGC outside of Iran. They have immunity. The only place they should not have immunity is in Iran itself. But I'm not familiar with the legal system in Iran. And I'm not sure you can sue the IRGC right now. However, as you noted, in the next, God willing, new regime in Iran, they may strip the RGC from its immunity. They may even legislate a law that allow to see the RGC. They may just open the courts to damages that happen as a result of the brutality of the RGC and allow citizens to file lawsuits against them. But it's gonna happen only in Iran, not elsewhere, unless Europe will follow United States and declare that there is no immunity to RGC and will open its court to enforce judgments against them in their countries.
Well, as a last question, I want to ask you, what message do you hope this and similar strategic lawsuits send to these terror groups? I mean, to the state sponsors and to the international community about justice, deterrence, and, of course, the rule of law.
That we all have to fight back against terrorism. That terrorism is a global problem, is a global issue. It's not a Jewish matter. It's not an Israeli matter. Jews that were supposed to be dear to Hezbollah were killed by Hezbollah's missile, telling you that Hezbollah does not discriminate when he wants to kill Israelis. It doesn't care if they're Muslims, Jews, Palestinians, nothing of this sort. So one message is that you cannot peace a terror organization, that the terror organization will destroy you wherever you are, and therefore you don't have a choice but to fight back. And the second message is for us, for the people, that we have an opportunity to join the war against terrorism. We do what governments cannot do. And government should learn from us. Government should join us. Should give us the information where Hezbollah hides its assets, where Iran oil and tankers are going, where their buildings, where their bank accounts that we, the terror victims that represent, can go after that and bankrupt terrorism. Once you bankrupt terrorism, once there is a global effort against the terror funding, rest assured the West will be free from terrorism once and for all.
All right, we will leave it at that. I want to thank you, Nitzana, for joining us today and for all the work that you're doing at Shurat Adin.
Pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.